Welcome to Writer's Block. I'm Rex. He's Lav. Lav, we've got a developing story this week with Tiger Woods. Apparently, he jumped on the private plane along with Justin Thomas and his son, Charlie, to go up and play a practice round at Augusta National. Still no word on if he's going to play next week's Masters, and we don't have a lot of details, but what do you take from all of this?
So I thought about this on Tuesday night after it became clear through various private jet tracking websites that Tiger had already returned home to South Florida. And I'm kind of two minds here. Part of me tells me with just an 18-hole practice round, I thought he may have done kind of like a multi-day trip to kind of simulate a tournament experience. That either tells me, A, he just wanted to get validation, verification, confirmation that his body is good enough to play a next week Masters. That's one way of thinking. The second way of thinking is that he really does not have any intention of playing in the Masters, and that he was just viewing that 18-hole practice round on a very difficult golf course to walk as just kind of a litmus test on where his body was, had an opportunity to play with his son Charlie, get him out there for what I believe would be the first time at Augusta National, and you could think that way. I have no idea. I think we're all still guessing. It's about midday on Wednesday, the week before the Masters. I have no idea which way he's leaning. Wouldn't surprise me, though, if he is not quite ready yet to play.
And complete apologies for anyone who might be watching this by the time a decision is made. We're clearly doing this on the fly, so we could end up being very, very right or very, very wrong. And I feel like you kind of twisted yourself into a knot on this one. I don't think he's flying up there just to play a friendly practice round, just to say he played Augusta National. That sounds like something you and I would do, and anyone else who has the love of golf that we do. But I think in this particular case, he wanted to test his body, and I don't think it's what happened on Tuesday that he's interested about. I think his game has probably been good enough that he's even considering this. I think it was, how is his body going to feel when he woke up Wednesday morning? Was there going to be the type of pain that he's not going to be able to go and tee it up again? Was it going to be the type of pain that's manageable and you can put Humpty Dumpty back together again, like they did a couple years ago when he actually won? I mean, look, this is a guy that has dealt with injury and pain and surgeries his entire career. So he understands how to manage these things. And I just think all he needed was maybe just an 18 holes. Let me go out there and walk. Let me see how my body feels the next day. Because I don't know. I still can't say one way or the other. Either he's going to play or he's not going to play. And the thing about this particular event, unlike other PGA Tour events, he doesn't have to commit. So it's not like we're waiting for the Friday deadline at 5 o'clock to say, oh, he's going to play or not play. You would think, you're shaking your head, I know what you're thinking, you would think he would do it beforehand just out of respect for the Masters. But in theory, he can wait until 10 minutes before his tee time on Thursday.
Conceivably, you're right. He very much could. I highly doubt that would be the case. I think there's a number of reasons why Friday is kind of the date that I've always been circling. That's what he's done in the past, whether he's decided he is going to play or whether he isn't going to play. Saturday, of course, is the final round of the Augusta National Women's Amateur. Sunday at Augusta National is the Drive, Chip, and Putt Championship. And then Monday, it's full-blown Masters week, and we're off and running. I don't think he'd want to be, as a five-time champion and a proud champion at Augusta National, I don't think he would want to overshadow the tournament in that way. I understand, Rex, what you're saying when it comes to Tiger and how it's most important today, what he is feeling. That's why I thought he would have wanted to play again, play another 18 holes and see how his body is. The Masters is not 18 holes. Like, going and walking and playing at Medalist today is not the same as walking those 6 miles on that highly undulating golf course at Augusta National.
We could keep doing this. You could keep twisting yourself.
Rex, Charlie also has to go to school. And education is very important to the Woods family. Charlie has to go back to school. That could be a big reason why they flew home on Tuesday night.
And we have to move to the next subject because Haley says so. So we had this conversation before we came on and taped this. And it's always an interesting take that there are some players who truly believe that it's best to play the week before a major championship. And this was very much the case back in the day when the Houston Open was played the week before the Masters, and they went out of their way to try to create something along the lines of similar conditions. It's a little bit different now that we're in San Antonio at the Texas Open. But what are your thoughts? Do you play? Do you not play?
I think the PGA Tour is in kind of a weird spot because I don't think the two preceding events to the Masters are necessarily the best preparation for the year's first major championship. You look at last week, you were there in Austin, Rex. It's a pool play at the WGC match play. Match play obviously is not a stroke play tournament, which the Masters is going to be. That's a little bit weird. You look at now TPC San Antonio. It might be generous off the tee. You might have some very interesting undulations and runoff areas around the putting surfaces there, but by and large, it bears very little resemblance to what the test that the players are going to face at Augusta National. I did think it was interesting, Rex, and I think this is it pertains to certain players. Jordan Spieth has always wanted to play his way into contention. Tiger Woods always wanted to take the week off. Rory McIlroy, in particular, for the first time, has signed up to play the Valero for the first time since 2013 when he finished second there. He did not want to sit at home pondering the possibilities about the career Grand Slam, just thinking about all things Masters during his prep in South Florida. For players like Rory, who potentially, could have had their mind elsewhere, I do think it is a good idea to play the week before because it just kind of keeps your mind occupied.
And there's going to be plenty of distraction for Rory. And I think you're right on this front, that everybody has sort of their own taste. And whether you play, whether you don't play, you're right. It's not a good setup for what they're going to end up facing at Augusta. But to be fair, there really probably isn't a true similar setup to what you're going to find at Augusta
Houston
National.
Open was pretty good. The golf
club was pretty good.
I mean, they did their best job to simulate the conditions there.
Yeah, Steve Timms, who was the former tournament director there, did a wonderful job, actually, of getting players, convincing them, creating this golf course that, look, we're going to give you a lot of the same situations, a lot of the same lies you're going to face at Augusta. I don't think that's necessarily the case now with San Antonio being the week before. I will say this, in the case of Rory, there might be other things at play here. You have to play the strength of field policy in the PGA Tour where you have to add a new event that you haven't played in 5 years. There's also, you had to add an event if you were on the final PIP list from last year, which he was. So there's probably some other things at play.
He also doesn't like pool play at the match play, so he wasn't going to play last week. He's kind of sick of that format.
But I think by and large, most guys will tell you that anything to get some reps in, and if he can go to San Antonio and see some of the shots that he wants to hit and get some sort of confidence, whether if he wins or not, I think that's a good thing. All right, we're going to move on. This is your favorite part of the show. Rapid fire. Here we go. Of the three players, Rory, Jordan Spieth, Bryson DeChambeau, who needs a good week this week?
I'll be quick on this. Rory has had a good season, although he has not yet cashed in, so I do not think he needs a good week. Bryson, I don't think he stands a chance next week at the Masters. T21 is his best career finish at Augusta in the best of times. So to me, it is Jordan Spieth, the defending champion at the Texas Open. Has not played great. Had an opportunity to win at Pebble Beach, but other than that, his short game and his putting have really let him down. If he starts filling it up this week at TPC San Antonio, I think that bodes well for next week at the Masters.
I think you're right. I think in the case of Rory, as long as he starts seeing the driver do what he wants it to do, and you and I have talked, I think, on the podcast this week about his wedge game does need to improve, and it seems like an area that is only getting worse. It doesn't seem to be getting better. I counter that and say if he drives the ball, like we know Rory McIlroy can drive the ball, he's going to have an enormous amount of confidence. I think you're absolutely right. We're now a year away since Jordan Spieth supposedly turned the corner, and it doesn't seem like he's any closer now to being around that corner than he was then. I'm moving on to the next one. Who could play their way into the Masters with a victory this week in San Antonio?
I know exactly who you're going with this one, so I'm going to veer in a different direction. To me, it is Maverick McNeely. He was the only player last week, Rex, at the match play who went 2-0-1 and did not advance out of his group. Played really well. He has a lot of motivation. He was trying to crack that top 50, didn't quite get it done. Although historically he has played better on the West Coast, I think this is an opportunity, a good course for him. He's hitting the ball longer than he ever has. His iron play is as good as it ever has as well. It wouldn't surprise me if this is the site of his breakthrough victory, and he does get to Augusta National after all.
Richard Bland. Give me Richard Bland today.
King Richard.
King Richard, Blandy, as his friends called him. I wrote the column last week when he got on that magical run at the match play, and I just think a late in life opportunity like this is just going to be an unbelievable story. Even writing it last week, it was kind of unbelievable because what he has gone through to get to this point. And you have someone who's almost 50 years old that before last week had only played in a PGA Tour in the United States, a PGA Tour event in the United States twice. So you start to think to yourself, no, those opportunities aren't going to come. Next thing you know, you get into a World Golf Championship, you play well, you have the opportunity to get into the Masters. That's what people like you and I dream about riding. All right, let's finish strong. Who do you like at the Texas Open?
I'm going to go with Corey Connors. Back in 2019, he was kind of that Cinderella story. You think about Richard Bland this week. Corey Connors was that Cinderella story in 2019. Monday qualifier, went on and won the tournament proper. His record in this at this tournament is very good. His scoring average just south of 70, and semifinalist last week at the WGC match play. Ended up beating even Dustin Johnson in that consolation match. So I think Corey Connors enters this week with a lot of form, good course history, and I think he's a good sleeper pick actually next week for the Masters as well. The way that his iron play certainly has been trending.
I think I'm going to tie myself in knots with this one because I'm going to pick Jordan Spieth. And I know what I just said about him turning the corner last year here, but it seems to me that
he's not nearly in as good a form as he was at this point last year.
He's not, but again, we all know what is a week from now. And I think he knows better than anyone that he needs to find some sort of form before he shows up at Augusta National. Now, it's going to be a special place for him, but I still think he can turn it around, that he has the ability. He needs to probably figure out what he's doing with his swing and not speaking of tying himself into knots, but I do like him in that situation.
So he's actually hitting the ball off the tee better than he was last year. You may recall, Rex, I mean, he was statistically one of the worst drivers of the golf ball on the PGA Tour last year, despite spraying it everywhere. His iron play was great, and that's kind of how he'd gotten into contention 3 or 4 times before he eventually broke through in San Antonio. Ball striking, consistency-wise, is better. Short game and putter, I've still yet to see it. It's been almost a year now that he's really struggled on the green, so I need to see something before I'm ready to pronounce him as kind of a top 3, top 5 pick for the Masters.
All right, I'm going to need you to stay close to your camera because, as I said, we're on Tiger Woods watch. Thanks for watching this Writer's Block. We'll see you next week.